For nearly 5 decades, Brian De Palma has been lighting up movie screens with his elaborately staged genre films. He has been hailed as a modern master of suspense, horror, and cinematic voyeurism. His films include Carrie, Scarface, and The Untouchables. A new documentary takes a look back at a remarkable and boundary-pushing career. Here's the trailer for De Palma. Joining me now is Brian De Palma and the directors of the documentary and longtime De Palma fans, Noah Baumbach and Jake Paltrow. I am pleased to have all of them here at this table. So you see all that. You're in this documentary front and center. But then your films are front and center too. And we just saw a sampling of that. When you look at them, and you said famously, being a director is like being a watcher. What did you mean?
Well, you watch behind the camera. You watch what your actors are doing, and one of the essential shots in a movie is the point of view shot, which is we're seeing what the actor's seeing and the audience is seeing exactly the same information. That's unique to cinema, and it's a building block that I use quite a lot.
How did you learn this?
Well, I guess Hitchcock. I mean, he used a lot of the point of view shots. The simple one is like, walking up to the Bates mansion. I mean, you see her close up. She goes up the steps. You see the mansion getting closer. She goes up a few more steps on her and then onto the mansion. So we're seeing what she's seeing. We're thinking, oh, my God, I don't want to go into that house.
Yeah. What is it about? What do De Palma films share?
If you're watching television, you're flipping channels, and you come across a Brian movie, and you don't know it's him, if you know Brian's movies, you could guess it's him, just from the way the camera moves. I mean, you can talk about all the techniques very specifically, point of view shot, all those things, but there's something that, Brian's personality is so strong, and his visual sense is so personal that, it's undeniable when you see it. He loves long following shots. He does long tracking shots. He does lots of things in one. He does split screen. He does the split diopter. I mean, there are all these sort of techniques, but beyond all that, there's something. Brian's personality is just in the way the movies look and feel.
How did this come about?
It really comes out of our time spent with Brian. We would have these long, long dinners. I mean, there were weeks that we would have 3 dinners a week with Brian, and one night, Noah and I would walk home, and we realized if he would speak on camera the way he speaks to us at dinner, it would be quite a compelling thing.
Yeah. And so when you approached him, did he say, yes, what a great idea, I can't wait?
We were nervous about it. Well, I mean, Brian does not mince words, so if he was going to shut it down, it would happen fast, and we wouldn't be able to revisit it. Yeah. And so we sort of worked up the courage, and he was on board right away, and we put it together fast. I mean, we shot it a week later. We started shooting it, and we did it for 1 week.
1 week?
Yeah. One full week.
I mean, what is it about him that made you guys so wanting to do this?
Well, I mean, Brian's sort of an elemental force in filmmaking, and for me, and I think for Noah too, in a lot of ways, he is one of the few sort of like lenses we see movies through as a medium. I mean, he was sort of the first real strong director's vision that I was aware of, and in a lot of ways, I sort of associate movies through the way Brian sees them. And that's something you can't really shake. It's like a sense memory or something. And so to have access to that person and actually be friends with them and then have the opportunity to
How long has the friendship been?
It's been over 10 years, and you've known him over 20 years.
About 20 years for us.
You mentioned Hitchcock. It was Vertigo that made it for you.
Yeah,
What was it about
1958.
Vertigo?
It's the director's wet dream, basically. I mean...
Directors.
I mean, you're creating an image, a woman that you make the audience fall in love with through Jimmy Stewart following her around, and then you kill her, and then you recreate her. And what we do in our movies all the time is we create these characters that we want you, the audience, to watch. Many times they are beautiful women.
What does he do, and what is it that you most admire about what he does? I mean, what are the ingredients of that?
I was very interested in sort of B movies and horror movies and special effects as a kid, and Brian, in a way, like brought me into real movies through the way he makes them. So there were the elements of genre and then he's bringing this very personal point of view into these genre pictures, and that's unusual. And there aren't a lot of people that had done that sort of before, and I don't think there are a lot of people that are doing it now. So to be able to make personal films inside of genre, I think, is the great hallmark. I mean, aside from inventing essentially the erotic thriller and all sorts of other stuff.
Right. It's also what he does is so purely of cinema. There's no, I mean, the hit I get off Brian's movies is something I get. I mean, but I love movies, and I feel like to love movies, you look at a Brian movie, you're like, how can you not love this? This is so
symphonic.
Yeah, and you feel this sort of enthusiasm and investment in doing something purely cinematic, you know, and he talks about it in the movie about how his visual approach is sort of, you know, he has a visual idea and he constructs an entire movie sometimes out of this one idea.
See, I'm interested too in what makes a great movie. I mean, they're like The Untouchables or Scarface or others, Carrie.
You know, you take a movie like Carrie, it's a great writer. It's his first novel.
Right.
Then you've got all these great actors that nobody's ever seen before, except for Piper Laurie, you know, and because George Lucas and I were casting all the young actors in Hollywood at the same time, we saw everybody. And because in my case, I couldn't get my movie financed, I was waiting around for months, I had a tremendous amount of time to lay out the whole sequence of the movie. And we had a lot of time to work with these actors that nobody had ever seen before.
Take a look at this, a scene from Carrie. Did you once say, I don't watch scary films?
Right.
What was this?
I'd rather be the puppet master than the puppet.
Yeah.
You know? I like to construct
did you watch
sequences.
Your own films?
Well, but you know when things are coming, but you know, you don't like to be scared out of your seat. I mean, I don't like roller coasters. Do you?
Yes, I love them. Yeah.
Not me. I don't like being caught off guard. But can I set somebody up?
But you would. My instinct about you would be that you would exactly want to be caught off guard. You exactly want to create something that you don't quite understand. But
no, I want to lay it out and get the rabbit in the hat and pull it out at the right moment. And I don't like movies where I don't know where the scares are coming. But because, the big key to most scary moments is you just have to do this. Because they usually boo you with the soundtrack. So if you go like this, you won't be scared because it's always suddenly somebody's banging.
The music adds to it.
And they're going, very quiet, very quiet, very quiet. And it goes like that and everybody jumps no matter what you're doing on the screen. So if you go like this, you won't be scared.
What's your favorite scene of all the movies you've made?
Well, I think the prom scene, which was before what we just saw here, where you carefully set up where everybody is, and then the madness begins.
What you want to accomplish here, Jake, is to see the world that Brian sees through his eyes.
I mean, that's one aspect of it, but I think the bigger thing is sort of sharing our friendship. It's a very unique view into somebody like Brian. Brian doesn't talk a lot, with the press and hasn't told a lot about the way he works.
So that's why you haven't been here often.
Absolutely.
And so
all the offers I refused.
And in a lot of ways, the film started as something that would be almost for us. It was like a way of archiving this sort of special relationship and the things he told us. And I think once you start filming Brian, he knows what his job is. And like a great actor or something, like he knows how to make it funny, make it fast, keep the pace up. And suddenly you realize this is the stuff movies are made of.
So what's it like directing a director?
The directing is sort of the editing in a way. I mean, the shooting of it is just like the conversations we would have with him at dinner or at coffee. And then your intuitive senses sort of take over when you're actually selecting the footage. And that's when it becomes this thing where we're sitting there together and talking about the things we like. And then we're also trying to cast a spell like you would in a regular movie. So you want it to be a certain length, you want it to have a certain pace, and it has to keep going without ever breaking the spell as best you can. So all those same sorts of rules seem to apply.
So what's interesting, too, going back to what you've already said, it is, in a sense, this was like you were documenting something for your own pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you decided that it has a wider purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think the feeling was from our casual conversations at dinner, and directors get together, they talk about movies, and that we sort of talked in a certain way that was specifically because we were all, it's shared experience having all made movies, it was sort of specific in that way, and we felt that, well, this is also happens to be Brian De Palma, who movies we've grown up with and movies we love, and so let's sort of let's see if that translates in front of a camera.
The conceit of this film, or the joy of this film, whichever you choose, is that it's just you. It's not your cinematographer. It is not your screenwriter.
And all my friends telling me how great I am.
Yeah. You did the first film with De Niro, wasn't it?
Right.
First time he did.
Out of graduate school. Yeah.
The Wedding Party.
Yes.
Did you see greatness? No, you saw a young actor.
I saw a talented young actor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I have a long history with Bob.
Right.
So, and Bob's very shy.
Really?
So, yes, he's very shy. But he has a kind of rapport with me because I've known him when he was a kid, basically. And so we're very matter-of-fact with each other. And the interesting thing I must say I discovered on The Untouchables was I would be looking at the rushes. As I was shooting the film and looking at it on a monitor or through the camera, I couldn't, I thought he wasn't doing enough. And I kept on thinking, God, but Bob, don't you have to you do a little more here? I mean, you're so laid back and so underplayed. He said, believe me, just trust me. And what I discovered is that he was doing things so subtle, they would only be revealed on a big screen. Well, that was a lesson I learned. No, just the fact that you needed a screen to see what he was doing. You can't see it from here to here, but when you put it on a 50-foot screen, now I see what he's doing. And it's very subtle.
Okay, let's talk about things you like. You like split screens.
In some places, but the one you just showed here is not a very effective split screen. Split screen is not good for action.
What's it good for? Parallel action?
Good point. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Intercutting or parallel action. It worked really great in Sisters because, Jennifer's talking to the cops and trying to get back to where the murder was committed. Meanwhile, Bill Finley and Margot are cleaning up the room and getting the blood away and putting, the dead person into the couch. So they're both going on simultaneously. And it starts with Lyle writing, on the window, and it's seen from Jennifer's point of view, and then it follows Jennifer all the way around till she comes all the way into the apartment, and it follows the guy dying, and then Bill Finley coming in and basically cleaning up and putting the body in the couch.
Dream sequences.
I like dream sequences because I do a lot of dreaming, and trying to make sense of them.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So do you hire people to interpret your dreams?
No, but I get a lot of ideas from my dreams.
Do you really?
Yeah, if you go, I don't know if this works for any of you guys, but if you're dealing with a problem and you go to sleep, somehow you work it out in your dream and you wake up and you go, aha, that's it.
Does that happen to you?
Yeah, versions of it. I don't put it in my movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus it's very stylized and you can do really crazy things.
What is your favorite story he tells from the movie?
That's a good one. I don't know. There are many good ones, and I think there are a lot of things he says about directing that kind of crystallize, things that all filmmakers go through. And Brian tells it in a very personal, specific way, but it does kind of go right to the heart of the job. And I mean, one of them there's a story about getting Carrie financed, and and this is also coming after he had been fired from Get to Know Your Rabbit because he stuck to his principles, and the producers come to him. I mean, I don't know why I'm telling the story in front of you, but he basically goes back. He has an opportunity to sort of walk away again, and he decides to compromise.
To lie.
Well, to lie. But in the way you tell the story, we think you're compromising, and then what we really find out is he's finding a way around it. And it's very much about, I think that story, while it's hilarious the way he tells it in the movie, but it's also very much about what directors have to go through to do these things.
So if you're talking to a bunch of directors and you say to them, look, there are a lot of things I'm going to tell you about how I see the making of movies. But if there's one thing that I want you to know about making movies, it is this. What would that be?
Rely on your instincts. Don't be talked out of things.
Yeah.
Because one of the important things you have to know is there are people that are paid a lot of money to convince you to do things you don't want to do. Studios are filled with them because you are spending a lot of money and they don't know what's going on in your head.
You think at the end, Jake, you know what makes him tick?
No.
I don't think so either.
But I can tell. But one thing about, I think he says in terms of, something that's misunderstood about Brian is that he talks about the Hitchcock technique being a language, you know, and I think, you know, detractors would say, oh, it's derivative or something like that, and I think he's really speaking in
the same language,
a cinematic language, and carrying that on consistently. You know, some people have worked in the sort of Hitchcock style or have done a movie in that sort of way, what we associate that with, but nobody has quite worked in the consistently visual storytelling approach first. Hitchcock sort of started like Brian.
The film we're talking about, De Palma, is in theaters on June 10th. Brian De Palma, Noah Baumbach, and Jake Paltrow. Back in a moment. Stay with us.